everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything, changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything, changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything, changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. 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 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into dancing. 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. Oh, there's something about your love, something about your love changes everything in my body. Oh, something about your love, something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything, changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything, changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything, changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. 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 Something about your love, something about your love changes everything.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Man, let's say hi to some folk and then we're gonna jump on in. We got Cindy. Good morning to you. Chuck B. Good morning, sir. Man, actually, I got your text message last night. I was actually on my way home from the hospital, and I was like, man, when I get home, I gotta respond to that. Totally forgetting about it until I saw you pop up here, and then I was gonna text you back, but then my phone died. So he's doing great. to answer your question. He's doing good. Keep him up, keep him prayed up. But yeah, things are good. Um, yeah, there we go. Bert Reggiani, good morning to you, sir. Connie, good morning. Alice, good morning, guys. Love you guys. Thank you for popping on here. And so today I was thinking about doing something a little different, and I need your participation. Yeah, it is awesome, man. So I need your participation in this one, okay? So I want to, um, you don't have to give much thought about it or whatever, but something that you don't mind sharing with, the internet. But I want you to type in or in the comments something that like your greatest hope right now, like something that you're hoping for, or something that you believe in God for. You need God to show up, right? This is one of those impossible prayers, right? Like this thing that I'm believing for, man, I don't see how it could happen if God didn't show up, right? I need an impossible prayer that you believe in, that you're standing on, that you're hoping or not. Yeah, that there's this hope. There's this eternal hope that's connected to it that you believe in God for. What's something that you believe in God for right now? Drop it in the comments for me. And while you're dropping those in the comments, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm going to get into. But before that, we got Olivia. She joined us. Good morning to you. Um, Come on. All right. And so um, I want to talk a little bit about this. So I remember I was in Atlanta, and I might have shared this before, but I was in Atlanta, and for a couple days, I was like I took over like their youth program, and I was just hanging out with these young adults, and it was awesome. And the reason it was awesome was for a lot of different reasons, but um, we're sitting down like and we're having a meal together, and this kid comes up to me and they're just talking to me about all sorts of things. But this guy was like, "Man, have you ever saw a miracle? Right? Like, have you ever like laid your hands on somebody and watched them be healed? Right?" And so I just start telling these stories about different times where I seen God show up supernaturally, and it was just incredible. Like there was like and it was at first it was just our little table, so there's about 3 or 4 kids and myself, but by the end of it, like man, the whole room was around this table. We're just all kind of talking and just talking about like the goodness of the Lord and what he does, right? Like he shows up, and sometimes we can't explain it, um, and it's just yeah, it's those God moments where it's just like man, God shows up. There's no other, we asked him to show up, and he showed up, and he showed out. He did something incredible, and so I'm just telling all these glory stories of God showing up. Um, and it sparked this whole thing about like, man, we want to see miracles. Like, and so these kids, they're just like hungry. Like, man, that's what we want. We want to see miracles. And so from there, I got up on the stage that was in the room, and I just said, "All right, who like let?" I asked the same question, like, "What do you believe in God for?" Right? Like in this room, what um, what are you believing for? Like, what is that thing that if this thing happened, it had to be God, and I'm hoping for that. I'm believing in that, and all sorts of things started coming out. But I would they would raise their hands, and I'll pick one at a time. And what would happen was I would say, all right, now who has in this room who has faith for that, right? And I can't remember all of them, but there was this one guy. He was a football player. He had hurt his ankle, um, and he's like, I want God to heal me, right? Like I don't want to be hurt anymore. And And so I just look around the room and say, who has faith for that? Like who believes that God can heal this guy's ankle right now in front of us? And a bunch of hands go up. Like all these hands like start going up. And I said, all right, you guys pray for him. You said you got the faith. Like let's lay hands and let's pray for this kid. And so they just start praying for each other, one miracle at a time. And this whole room just erupted in like all of us, all of our faith just grew exponentially because like man, you just started to see God. And the kid who with the ankle, like he was healed. And we hung out with him the next day, and we're at the mall. He's literally running around the mall. And God healed him that night. And it wasn't because like, you know, there was something special in me and I had to lay hands on him and all this other stuff. I just asked like, hey, who has faith for it? Right. And these kids, these high school kids, like said, I have faith. I believe God can do this. And they laid their hands on, you know, their classmate. And God showed up, you know? And so I love that. And so this is Living Sent. And so I wanted to challenge us to put some things out there. And then I'm going to have the people who are watching this stream just say a quick prayer. Like let's lay our hands, like there's no distance in the spirit, right? So we're going to put our hands towards the screen and we're just going to pray for these things. We're just going to pray for these things, right? That God can do anything. We serve a God, the God of the impossible. Like he can do anything. The God who created everything can show up here and show up now. And there's faith here. And so we're gonna pray. So Alice popped on here that my kids will find and love Jesus as much as I do. Oh, I love this. I love this so much on so many levels, right? Because this was my mom's story, my dad's story. Because I don't know if you know my personal testimony, but when I went to college, I was a total prodigal, living for the world, and it was my mom and my grandma and my dad, praying. I remember my mom and my grandma specifically, but I know my dad was praying too. But they would always pray, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. And so those prayers going up for my mom and my grandma stopped this kid in his tracks. And he opens up my dorm room and he preaches the gospel to us, to me and my roommate. And he changed my life forever, right? And so who has faith for Alice? Who wants to pray for Alice? And all you have to do is just comment, I'm praying right now. And we're gonna pray wherever we are, whatever we're doing. We're just gonna pray for those things right now. So just do a hand emoji, and so we know that you're praying for it. And then Alice, next week, I want you to come back with a testimony on, if God is answering that prayer, because a lot of times, like, these things that we think have to take years and years and years, like in a moment, like it just happens. And so Olivia's praying for you, Alice. And I'm sure other people are praying for you as well. And I'm going to be praying for you. But please come back. King Gooch is also praying for you, Alice. Connie is praying for you. So there's so much power in prayer, and sometimes we take it for granted, and sometimes we take it lightly. But there's so much power when we lift him up, when we go to him and Chuck B is praying for you, Alice. Come on. So also there's Chuck is praying for you, Alice, but then he's also asking for some prayer, believing that God would bless my stepson with a job and a complete turnaround in his life. Come on. So who on here has the faith for Chuck? There was like a notification that popped up right over your thing. I was like, oh, I gotta get this up. Anyways, who has faith for this? Drop some hands in the comments, letting us know that you're standing with Chuck for his stepson, that he would get that job and just a complete turnaround, like that God will be with him. I think a similar thing that Alice was asking, that God would just arrest his heart, right, and that rejuvenate him. And come on, Alice, come on. Alice has faith for that, and she's praying with you, Chuck, right now. And Chuck, you know I'm praying with you, brother. But this is what we're, as the body of Christ. We stand with each other. We stand on his promises. And sometimes, like, man, I can have so much faith for somebody else, but sometimes I struggle with having faith for myself. And so that's why he says, forsake not the assembly of the brethren. And when we come together and we lift each other up, right? And it's like, man, I got faith for you if you got faith for me. And we're going to lift, it's almost, that picture of Moses where he's standing and he's got Aaron and Air on each side of his arms, and they're not letting them drop. And they're like, hey, man, every time his hands are in the air, like, we're winning the battle, and so we're going to hold you up no matter how long it takes. And that's how we're coming alongside each other, and we're lifting up our hands, right? And so, yeah, come on. We got some more coming in. Bert, what you got? Prayers for the innocent Israeli people and the innocent Palestinian, I can't read today, I guess, Palestinians, and for Ukraine people. May God have mercy on them. Come on. Our God is big enough. I have faith for that, brother. I have faith for that. Who's standing with Bert? Who's standing for Bert, for peace in the Middle East? Come on. I love this. I love it. I hope this was an encouragement to you. I know it was an encouragement to me. But man, when we stand together, man, there's nothing that can stop us. There's nothing that can stop us. There's nothing that can hold us back. So I would challenge you to every single day, like, do things that challenge your faith, to grow your faith. Pray, put God on it, right? You see somebody, Chuck has faith for that. Chuck is standing with you, Bert. It's like, man, I know this is a God-sized problem, and every single day, like, I see God-sized problems, and I'm gonna lift them up. I'm gonna say, God, you have to show up in this. Alice is standing with you, brother. Every single day, let's push ourselves, like, into just to believe God, right? And if we don't have the faith for it, man, let's call on some other intercessors, some other believers. Reach out and say, hey, would you stand with me on this thing? So that's it, y'all. I love you guys. Thank you. I hope this was an encouragement for you. And if you put the prayer hands emojis up, you're standing with them right now in this moment. When I end this live, let's lift these prayers up. Let's lift up these petitions to the Lord, and let's stand with our brothers and our sisters. All right. I love you guys. Have a great Friday. Let Jesus be seen in you everywhere that you go. Love you. Peace.